So guys, if you are still in crypto, man, I mean, congratulations, you're doing amazing. But that is one thing that you need to know, because not everybody will get out with profit. And therefore you have to understand this, because
About many years ago, there was a man, and this man understood that we as people don't need anything else than clothes, food, love, and Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, you can say whatever you want. It's kind of gay.
but who the fuck cares, right? If it's making us money, then it's making us money. But there is one little problem out there. It's not making a lot of people money. Why not? Because of the fact that there's always a freaking group of LARPers sitting behind that little laptop thinking like,
There are only 40 million altcoins out there. Well, that's not enough. And we need to launch another one. Utility, you ask? Fuck you and your utility. We're gonna launch it anyway if you like it or not. And we're gonna do that right now. In 3, 2, 1.
and it never works. I don't have a sound effect for that yet. But that's the problem. People think that high risk comes with high reward. And that's not really true. In fact,
It's a little gay.
so I want to talk about that, right? And if you're new, you'll notice like this coming from somebody with like the calm type of guy, right? Like no ADHD involved whatsoever, of course, and hyper focus, right? Hyper focus. You can put this before you go to sleep, like perfectly. So welcome to the channel. My hi, like, subscribe, turn the bell notification on, and let's get into the fact why you should really stay the hell away from this altcoin market. And yeah, at the same time also why now is the best time ever to buy alts. So let's talk about the following. I know that altcoins are more spectacular, they're more exciting, and I get that. I've been there, right? Like, why should I invest in Bitcoin? It's maybe gonna do a 2x at best, and etc. etc. Yeah, look, I thought that 10 years ago as well. And the thing is though, that if you look at Bitcoin, right? Let's say that you have invested $100, right? Every week. And I know that's a lot of people, or a lot of money for some people. But let's just say $100 every week, right? And you DCA that equally during the bear, bull, doesn't matter, every week. And you've done that for 10 years, right? From 2015 till now. Then you would have totally invested $52,000. And that Bitcoin that you would have right now, you would have accumulated 27 Bitcoin, which is now worth $2.8 million. And this, literally this, is nothing else than just buying Bitcoin with $100 every week and move on with your life. Not anything else. There is not a moment where you really had to worry, right? Unless you had it on FTX, right? But that's another story. So this is by far the lowest risk approach within crypto that you can take. And the reward is pretty insane, right? Now, if you wanted to, it's warm in here, man. If you wanted to be a little more active and be a little more like, you know what? I'm a buy a little more when prices are lower, and I'm gonna buy a little less when prices are higher. So you do it dynamically. You could say, right, like, hey, I'm accumulate up to 0.5 risk, right? That's something that you can use, and only then I'm gonna buy. In that case, you would have invested a little more, but you got 60K Bitcoin, and yeah, now would be having $6.2 million. Now, again, I know in hindsight, but again, 5 years ago, people also thought, in hindsight, and in 5 years from now, people will still think like, in hindsight, now is a better time than ever, right? Like you cannot do this in 10 years and expect the same returns that you can make right now. So that's a total invested of $68,000. In 10 years, you would have 10x'd that money in the lowest risk way possible for, in this case, in Bitcoin, right? 100x. Right now, again, I know that on, on X, on YouTube, you see these people posting like, hey, this coin did 100x. And that's the kind of the harsh reality right here, is that if a coin does 100x, that's not the rule, that's the exception, right? So either you did not invest in it because you think that's too high risk, then you would have missed out on that 100x. But you would have also missed out on millions of coins that also had that 100x potential and that got you wrecked, right? Now, if you did get that 100x and you really made a lot of money out of that, then you're stupid, right? Then you are really, really stupid, okay? And, also maybe
A little bit gay.
sorry. Why? Well, very simple. Because if there is a coin that does 100x and you invested a lot of money in it that made you a lot of money, then you are just not so smart investing so much money in such a risky project, right? If you want to gamble on the 100x coins with a little money, then that's also fine. That's even better because with most of these coins you will lose, right? However, if you finally get that 100x, then you didn't invest a lot of money, so you also did not make a lot out of it. Plus, you really needed that 100x to compensate for all the losses you have made on different coins. So therefore, that's a little overrated. Like, if you really know about the markets as far as you can predict it and be like, hey, this is a good time for BTC. This is a good time for alts. This is a good time to be in, nothing. Then you can definitely do better. But if you feel like, man, I want the lowest risk, but I don't even want to think about bear markets, I'm gonna just keep on buying, man, you still will have 100x, right? And I know 10 years is far from now. But at the end of the day, the future you will be thankful, right? Now, you can also, of course, look at something else, which is pretty cool. And let me check if I can find it right here. Yeah. So let's say you would have bought the top 10 altcoins that were around in 2015. Right, and we exclude Bitcoin. That's not an altcoin, so we can include. I don't know what else was there back then. And you invested a total of 6123. Right now, again, this is probably going to end up very well because there were a few coins back then that are still around right now. XRP, Doge, ETH. Yeah, they went way higher, of course, right? So if you invested $60,000 back in the top 9 in 2015, then you would now be sitting at $35 million, right? 35 million. So that's pretty freaking insane, right? That's like really crazy. However, are you emotionally prepared to do so? Because that's also putting you through, for example, making $20 million and riding it all the way down to $1 million, right? Like that was a crazy freaking drop, right? So, and again, these were the top 9 altcoins back then, right? If you want to really outperform Bitcoin right now, I think most people are not looking at the current top 10. So you have to go a lot more risky. So at this specific point, I'm like, stay away from alts. If you really feel like, man, I don't have to be rich in 2 years, like I want to just make it in the slightly longer term, then this should be a no-brainer. Just buy Bitcoin. And if you want to gamble on an altcoin here and there because that's just part of the game, that's completely fine, right? But don't try to create real wealth for in the far future by getting in alts right now. However, there's another side to this, right? Because
there are still a lot of fucking coins being launched that are good.
And let's talk about those, right? So if we now look at the altcoin market, you have to, this Bitcoin, you have to realize my trading view. Why did it happen, by the way? There we go. By the way, if you like the content, in the meantime, give it a like, right? It would help a lot. Now, if you go one little step further, right? Just one step. What's that? What's sitting between just don't caring about the market, buying Bitcoin, and being a complete expert, right? What's the next step? I think that the next step is not researching altcoins, knowing what the hypes are, knowing this, knowing that, because then you skip a part, right? Why? Because all these fantastic altcoins, they don't mean shit if the bigger picture is telling something completely different, right? If now a huge world war breaks out, zombie apocalypse, COVID on steroids version 2, China doing things, whatever, what they do, that's always bad, right? Like, if all that happens, yeah, then nobody really cares how your meme coin looks like, how cute your doggy is, right? Like, that's irrelevant, right? So you have to, if you want to take it a step further, in my opinion, then the next step is researching the markets in general a little bit. Like, hey, why does the money move like the money moves, and in how far is crypto following the stock market, or even better, the macro? What are, as far as you can predict, right? Like, but the expectations, what's the forecast for the macro? But also, how do cycles move? And hey, that can change at a certain point. But so far, it didn't. And I see a lot of times people try to go against the trend. And if you go against the trend, you get wrecked. You get wrecked, right? What do I mean? If you are even, if it comes to Bitcoin, right? And it is here, right? And you feel like, oh, hey, it always stops at the end of the post-halving year, and it now looks a little bad. And, you know, fuck that. There will be a bull market, right? Let's get into alts. Yeah, that's not great. If you have a little understanding, like, hey, these are market cycles, this is how it moves, right? There's a distribution phase. Let me take it back, actually. There's a distribution phase here. There's an uptrend. Accumulation phase, uptrend, distribution phase, downtrend. These are the 4 phases of the market, basically, right? Now, we had our accumulation phase, not even that long. We are now in an uptrend, right? So to now, for example, people saying like, hey, we're going in a downtrend, doesn't really make sense to me, actually, but hey, it could, right? But have a general understanding like, hey, these are the kind of things that we need to take a look at. And what does it have to do with alts? Because, and this is what I said years ago, but there is a time in the market to be in alts. And that time is very rare, actually, right? Now, if you look at the altcoin market, right, you can take a look at others, right? That's the most realistic chart for the altcoin market on TradingView. You know, this is pretty clear to me, like, okay, cool, this is in an uptrend and altcoins are in a bull market. They're doing okay, right? They're up 186% from the bottom, all fine. However, did it mean that this was the time, you know, to step in alts for the whole cycle, basically as an investment, right? As a trade, always good, but as an investment, no. I mean, there's a time to be in Bitcoin, there's a time to be in alts, and there's a time to be out of the market, right? the time to be in Bitcoin, yeah, actually, I almost want to say is it's not still going on, I think. But look, what I'm overlaying right now is the altcoin market on its Bitcoin pair, right? That purple line. And what you can see in the last cycle, if we overlay that, right? You see that, and if we overlay that on the Bitcoin chart, Jesus, what a mess. Sorry. Here we go, right? If we overlay that on the Bitcoin chart, here at the bottom for Bitcoin was in, right? So you could have thought like, okay, let's go in alts. However, from December the 3rd until, well, you know, in 2018 until December 2020. So for 2 years, while Bitcoin being in the bull market, yeah, it wasn't really worth being in alts, right? Although this was a little lower, but, you know, having all that stress and riding it up and down again, you know, so in hindsight, it's like, okay, we got a new bull market, fine. But it meant in that case that staying out of the altcoin market for another 2 years was actually pretty fine, right? And then at a certain point you can say like, okay, I wrote my Bitcoin up, right? I wrote it up. Bitcoin, it went from, you know, $3,000 here to around $30,000. Bitcoin way above its previous all-time high. It's in price discovery, did like a 10x. Now it's time to look at something that has more room to run, right? And if you then put that in the altcoin market, pretty much at the bottom, and then you ride that altcoin wave, you basically ride 2 bull markets in one. Right now, and again, in hindsight, it's very easy to say like, oh, you know, just buy Bitcoin here and altcoins here. It doesn't matter. It's not about the bottom or the top, right? DCA is the way, but it's about where you give or take DCA. Now, if I look at the market right now, Bitcoin, again, above the previous all-time high. Bitcoin, you know, bottomed at the beginning of 2022. We're now way later in the cycle. Altcoins went down against Bitcoin. And I made a lot of videos looking at the Bitcoin dominance, talking about what the Fed is doing, all the metrics, the retail, the social interest. That now looks like a fantastic time to me to get into altcoins, right? Could it go a little lower? Yeah, but again, that's not the point, right? It's about DCAing, and I started to DCA a year ago already, right? Yeah, and again, why did I do that? Because in first instance, I thought Altseason could come end of 2024, beginning of 2025, right? Why did I think that? Because that was like the average if you look at seasonality, basically. We got a pump, it went down again, went a little lower. Right, but that's the thing. Eventually, if this chart does something like whatever it does, right? Like this. Yeah, I mean, if you look at this and you DCA like, I don't know, here, your average is somewhere here, right? Who the fuck cares if you didn't time the exact bottom on this? Like, you did pretty well, right? And that's what I'm looking at right now. I now feel like, Bitcoin, could it do a... Yeah, okay, I don't want to make this like I'm going to do a price prediction, but could it have some pretty decent returns from this current 100K? Yeah, definitely, right? But in what stage of the cycle are we ending up right now? Is it the stage where Bitcoin starts to outperform? No, it has been doing that. And that's the complete opposite of what a lot of people are looking at, right? People were looking at the Bitcoin dominance and they were saying like, oh yeah, Altseason is going to start, Altseason is going to start, Altseason is going to start. And now the Bitcoin dominance went up. They say, okay, maybe we should get into Bitcoin. Right? Like, what? But that was the move here. Right? Again, if you did that last cycle, that was fucking ridiculous, right? Being an alts here, you know, ride the whole Bitcoin season and at the top be like, okay, yeah, maybe we should get into Bitcoin and then miss out on Altseason. Like, but that's human emotion. and that's very understandable. But it's, yeah, I know, definitely not the right way to do it. However, then at a certain point, so let's stick with the Bitcoin dominance chart. And I think if this wasn't the top, then it's close to it at least. Let's say, and it won't go in a straight line like this, but let's say it does something like this, right? Where it goes down like this, and this is our alt season. What does that mean? Does it mean that your altcoins are going up against the dollar? Not necessarily. I mean, an alt season is where altcoins outperform Bitcoin, right? They can do that if Bitcoin is going down. I mean, so far that did not happen in the last cycles, right? Here we went into alt season and Bitcoin went up, so altcoins went up like fucking crazy. Here we went into alt season and Bitcoin still went up, so altcoins went up like fucking crazy. But in theory, it could be that the Bitcoin dominance is going down while Bitcoin is going down, right? Do you, in that case, make money with altcoins? Depends how hard the Bitcoin dominance is going down compared to how hard Bitcoin is going down. Could still be. But what you at least are making is more Bitcoin, right? And at the end of the day, I mean, again, if you take one Bitcoin right now or $1 right now, we kind of know that in 10 years from now, that dollar is not going to get you more than today, but that Bitcoin will. So even if you use an alt season to make more money, you can do that by converting it into Bitcoin, right? Even if you are a long-term into BTC, yeah, you can use an alt season to get more of that very easily. I mean, the Bitcoin that you buy will be worth more and more and more. At least that's likely, right? But yeah, this is another good way to get into more Bitcoin or to get more Bitcoin, right? Yeah, and that's the trade. Like, if you apply this the right way, then you can do very, very, very well, actually. So that's kind of my thesis right now. So overall, I would say, yeah, get out of alts if you don't like the volatility, right? That's what I said at the beginning of the video. Like, man, I mean, a lot of people, they feel like, hey, alts, high risk, that automatically goes with high reward. No, like the high reward is really coming from Bitcoin eventually. In the short term, yes, there is a very, very, very small chance that you have one that gets you that high reward. But therefore, overall, they are so high risk. And that's often what people actually walk away with the risk of it and not the reward of it, right? And again, man, I mean, you could have bought 60K worth of crap altcoins 10 years ago very easily as well. And you would have, like 9 years ago, already lost all that money. While, again, if you put that same money in Bitcoin back then, you would now have $6 million, right? And the people that applied that and went through a couple cycles, I think they'd be like, why give me a reason to get into altcoins? Because I don't see one and I, for fuck's sake, don't need one, right? But like I said, you can use them to create more Bitcoin. Right now, and again, I mean, what kind of altcoins do you buy then? That depends on your risk, right? That completely depends on your risk. I would say stick to the high caps, right? And they might be boring, but if you look at an AVAX, for example, you might be like, it can go maybe back to $60 or so. If this cycle plays out like it always does, then I think it's actually going to be closer to 600 than 60, right? And that's for one very simple reason. During alt season, again, Bitcoin has always gone up. Okay, so let's say that during the coming alt season, Bitcoin stays flat, right? Completely flat. That will already be worst case. And this alt season is going to take AVAX on its Bitcoin pair back to the 2021 high, right? On its Bitcoin pair. Now again, I don't think that it's going to get that high, but it could. That's already in, let's say, that's 12x. So let's do a little diminishing return. So that's a 10x, right? Now, if Bitcoin stays flat on the dollar pair, then that's just simply a 10x for AFX on the dollar pair. But as we have seen, Bitcoin always goes up during alt seasons, and it goes up like, hard. So let's say Bitcoin does a shitty 2x. So far, worst case scenario. Yeah, then AFX on its Bitcoin pair 10x, plus Bitcoin on the dollar pair 2x, that's 20x for AFX on the dollar pair, right? And again, a lot of people, they think that they need to get into the risky side of alts to make a lot of money. Yeah, that's not necessarily needed, right? You should not underestimate how much money there is in the market right now already without money printers, right? There's now $3 trillion more than that in the market. That's slightly more than the 2021 high. So the money in the market to make these altcoins pump, that's already there. It's just, it only needs to shuffle. And then I'm not even talking about people from outside deploying. New retail comes in, which is absolutely at zero right now, right? So that's like, how worst case scenario do you want me to put this, right? Like, the money that's already, it is already here. And again, if you look like, I don't know, but I really need to get into the high caps or the low caps to make 100x. This is a beautiful example, actually. If you look at Cardano in the last cycle, you can say whatever you want, but here it was sitting at a market cap of $1 billion, right? 1 billion. Yeah, people thought like, maybe 3x, 10 if everything goes really crazy. What did it do? It did a 93x, right? Hey, I mean, like, this market is made for doing the impossible, right? A high cap like this, pulling off 100x in one cycle, that's crazy. Bitcoin going from literal zero, to 100K, that's crazy. XRP still existing, that's fucking crazy, right? Dogecoin, I remember in 2016, whatever, 15, 16, I had another platform and I gave away hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Dogecoins, like, for fun. It's not so funny now anymore, right? But Dogecoin as well, going from, 0, 0, 0, 0 to basically $1. That's like, man, this market is made for doing the complete impossible. So don't set your expectations too crazy, but please don't look at the crypto market or the altcoin market and be like, that can't happen. For fuck yeah, it can, right? That's crypto. So I hope this was helpful. If you like the video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel. If you're new, welcome. This is not my regular type of content, especially the intro. But then again, I kind of like that, man. And the people that really stick around, that's my audience, right? Like, so thanks for watching. Check out the exclusive community down below as well for the Alpha Factory. If you want to get on a one-on-one call with me, check out my portfolio, my strategy, exclusive videos, yada, yada, yada. And I wish you a lovely day.